right, everybody. Welcome to Litchwood Grove's Feature Park Night. Today we are super excited to be tutored and taught by the amazing Gumjaw in his organic storytelling for quests and roleplay. So he's already given us instructions, so please take it away, Gumjaw.
All right, hello everybody. So right off the bat, I'm going to point down right here. You guys can see that the names of different Discord talkers are going to pop up. That's going to be relevant later, but for now I'm going to turn that off so you don't just see my name flashing up and down. I am Gumjaw. Hello, I am a Master Smith of the Kingdom of the Nine Blades. Most of you know that, you're from here. But if you're not, welcome. Thank you for making the trip out. Today we are going to be talking about exactly what this sign says: organic storytelling for quests and roleplay. And this is going to be an interactive workshop, so over the course of the next, 1.5 hours-ish, we are going to be having a lot of back and forth between us, hence our little Discord pop-up. Now, before we go anywhere, we need to play a little game. And in order to play this game, I need a volunteer. Is anyone here from out of Kingdom? Is there anyone from out of Kingdom that would like to volunteer over voice? Is there anyone here from out of Kingdom? I'm looking at the list. Do I see one name that I don't recognize? Geldar? Where's Geldar from? Geldar, are you there? Can you unmute yourself? Are you from the Nine Blades?
I am not. I am from a freehold in Danville, Illinois, called Griffin's Heart.
Perfect. You're going to be my volunteer. Is that okay?
Oh, shoot me now.
Oh. All right. Perfect. So, Geldar, I have a little piece of paper here, and the first thing we're going to do is have a little story adventure, okay? So I want you to envision for me, all right, in the sky, a majestic rainbow. All right, in that rainbow, you have all the colors that naturally go in the rainbow. You've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. We're not going to talk about violet or indigo. We're just going to mash them into purple because that's the way I like to do it. Okay? Red, orange, yellow, sure. Green, blue, purple. Now, we don't need all those colors for this. We just need a few. So I'd like you to take out 3 of them. Just remove 3 from that rainbow. Just name them out loud, whichever 3 you'd like to do.
Okay, yellow, blue, and red.
Okay, cool. So yellow, blue, and red, we grab them from the rainbow, we bring them right back down to Earth. Now, in front of us, we have yellow, blue, and red. Now, I forgot to tell you this, but we also are in a mystical temple. And the whole essence of this presentation requires the power of one of these colors. So I'd like you to take one of the 3 colors that you just brought down and take that color and offer it to the engine that will drive this story, or this presentation, so to speak.
Okay, blue.
Blue. All right, we take the blue, we place it on the pedestal. It whirs to life, and our presentation now has the fuel it needs. So that leaves you with 2 in your hands. There is, what do you have, yellow and red?
Yellow and red.
All right. Now, I'd like you to pick one to give to me, and I'd like to pick one for you to keep all for yourself.
I'll give you yellow.
You're going to give me yellow. That's great. Yellow's my favorite color. And you're going to keep red. Would you like to switch that up in any way?
No, I'm good with red.
You're good with that? All right. So, we had our little adventure. We went up to the rainbow. We brought down the colors. We offered one to fuel the presentation. You gave one to me because you love me so much. And you decided to keep for yourself, out of all the colors you could have kept, you chose to keep for yourself, red. So.
Magic.
And what I just did there, and this little exercise, is the essence of what we're going to be talking about today. So everyone, yay, thank you, Geldar. You can re-mute yourself. And we're going to be going now right into the presentation. There's going to be a bit of talking before we get back to the interactivity. But I'd like you all to keep this little exercise in mind, and I'm going to refer to it a lot as we go through today. So, step 1, hydrate. If you have a drink, drink. Okay, so What does organic storytelling mean? Does anyone have any idea of what this might mean? Anyone want to unmute and let me know what they think that means?
I would. I think organic storytelling is storytelling in a way that feels natural, that flows smoothly, and is plausible.
Exactly. Perfect. Organic storytelling is storytelling that feels like it's getting there naturally, like it's not forced, like it hasn't been predetermined, like the players aren't being railroaded in a specific way. In order to really talk about that, we have to go over 4 main, essential terms. All right? We have mechanics, story, which I'm going to refer to as skins, and you'll see why when I kind of elaborate on it, plot points, and NPCs. Anyone, can someone elaborate what they think mechanics means? And no, it's not someone who fixes your car. Anyone want to unmute and talk about mechanics? All right, cool. Mechanics is the base underlying what your story or your quest or your roleplay is built upon. It's the non-story stuff. It's the puzzle that they're solving. It's the fight that they're fighting. It's the fancy bridge that you've built that they have to overcome. Mechanics is the what is being done underneath the hood that is making your story run and making it enjoyable. It's the stuff they're doing. And that includes dialogue. If they need to roleplay with someone and they're like, hey, I need to convince you to give me your, I don't know, rocket launcher, that roleplay interaction is a mechanic that they're interacting with. And the mechanic there is just role-playing, but that's still a base level core mechanic. Moving up from that, you have the story, or like what I'm going to say, or what I'm going to refer to it a lot as, is skins. Skins and the story is what you're going to drape over your mechanics to actually make it something. So anyone can say, you're going to walk down the path and then you're going to have a fight, right? The story or the skin is where you're going. It is what that fight is, why that fight is happening, who you're fighting. All the flavor stuff that goes on top of that is the skin. Imagine the mechanics as like the robot underneath and the skin as the costume that goes over top to give it life and give it identification as to what it is. So that's going to come into play. Next, plot points. Does anyone want to elaborate on what a plot point is? Feel free to unmute.
I can.
Go ahead.
Plot point is a series of critical story elements that you want the PCs to hit. They don't have to be in any order, and they can use different mechanics along the way, but these are the pinpoints that you want to hit. They have to talk to a proprietor of some establishment. They have to get into some underground terrain. They have to get in a big fight at some point. Doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, exactly. In the greater storytelling terms, plot points are the key pivotal moments where the plot will either change direction or have a choice or otherwise move the story forward, right? The plot points are the things that are generally going to tell the story, and that is a lot of just what we're going to be doing, right? We're going to be focusing on plot points as far as the actual storytelling, and I'll get to that in a sec, but the important thing you need to know is plot points are the important story beats over the course of whatever story you're telling. Last thing is NPCs. I'm not going to open this up for player input, but NPC stands for non-player characters, and that is all the people you have working with you to present your quest. Now, obviously, if you're doing D&D or something where you're a single DM, then you are role-playing your NPCs. But since this is an Amtgard workshop, we have to be cognizant that other players will be playing the other pieces. So what we can do and what we can't do is going to be very limited to the comprehension levels of our NPCs, because we, as the QM or storyteller, won't always be there to execute what needs to be done. So these 4 terms, keep them in your head. We're going to talk about them a lot. And let's move on. So we're going to go back to the idea of what does organic storytelling mean. And the biggest thing that it means when it comes to that whole making a story feel like it's progressing naturally is freedom of choice. That's basically what it comes down to. The freedom of choice, or at least the illusion of the freedom of choice. And this is 99% of what we're going to be hitting at today. What you really want to be able to do is take your knowledge of those 4 terms I told you, your mechanics, your story skins, your plot points, and your NPCs, and you're really trying to tell a story by telling as little story as possible. All right? Because being a good storyteller isn't about you writing an epic novel that a person is going to sit down and digest word for word and be able to reflect on. In Amtgard, telling a good story is about making a good experience. The real story is the experiences that the players have with the NPCs and their friends while they're going through it. All right, that's the most important part of the story. It's like the story that they tell to their friends afterwards, when they retell it to the people who weren't there, or even when they're recounting it with each other, that is going to be a more legendary tale than anything you could have written. And if you've run a quest before, you will know that 90% of your PCs are not going to get the full story. You could write it on a piece of paper and be like, here is the entire plot, and they still wouldn't retain it. What they're going to retain is their experience, their adventure, how their choices played out. So that is the story you're going to be building when you're trying to build an organic story, because it's the one that comes to them from their actions and sticks with them. Make sense? Yeah, cool. I didn't unmute you guys, but that's fine. All right, so now you might be wondering, well, okay, how do we do that? How can we control their experiences that they're having if we're not supposed to be like telling a story and controlling them? We need to let them choose. How do you plan for that? We can't just have 8 million branching paths. That, my friends, is where we come to my favorite word when I'm teaching anyone how to do any sort of quest writing in the game, and that is equivocate. I'm just going to use equivocate here as the general overarching term to describe everything we're going to be doing, but it does have an actual dictionary definition. And the dictionary definition of equivocate is basically being intentionally vague, as to not commit to one way or the other. To leave your options open. And by doing this, we are able to allow the players to make choices and alter our story in ways that fit with their actions, rather than forcing them along a set path and making them feel like their choices didn't matter, right? The more we can make their choices feel like they matter and have an actual effect, the more that they are going to feel like they had freedom of choice. The more they have freedom of choice, the more it's going to feel like it's progressing naturally, and there you have your organic storytelling. So if you came here thinking that we're going to be talking deep depth about character development and roleplay and all that kind of stuff, unfortunately, this is actually going to be more of a theoretical, mechanical conversation, although I will recommend checking out a number of the Admiral's videos on her YouTube channel, Admiral's Academia. She goes into the character side of things a lot more than we are going to here. Plug. All right, so equivocate. Equivocate is also coupled with yes and. And anyone who's familiar with improv will know that yes and is basically the way they teach you to interact, so you're not like stalling the improv, right? Instead of going, that doesn't happen, this happens, you go, yeah, that happens, and whatever. So you're constantly playing off of each other. So you want your equivocate and your yes and to work together to create that organic environment. Cool? I'm going to open it up real quick. Does anyone have any questions about where we've got so far? Real quick, if you'd like to unmute. Everyone following? You can also type in chat. I am looking at Discord chat, although it won't pop up on the screen. Beautiful. All right. Moving onward. So, how do you do these things? Here's the meat and potatoes about what we're going to get into today. There's essentially 3 different ways that you can use equivocate when you're writing your stories. The first one is true equivocation. The second one is reskinning. And the third one is retrofitting. And we're going to go over each of these in some detail. Then we're going to get to some live examples, and then you guys are going to get together and have a shot at doing it yourself, which will be really, really interesting. So, true equivocate. True equivocate is exactly what it says in the dictionary definition. It's being intentionally vague so that you're not committing yourself. The what I did with the rainbow at the start is a form of true equivocate. Basically, I didn't say what the final goal was. So when I wrote down the color red on that piece of paper, right, I didn't say, oh, this is going to be a prediction of what he's going to keep. I just wrote red. And so from a story perspective, I was like, oh, my goal is players to get red, right? To experience red. So as he made his decisions, I presented everything in such a vague way that depending on how he acted, I could pivot my story to continue leading them towards red in the way that I wanted, except for at the very end where I then had to shift the purpose of red to fit him. And that's going to fall into some of our other ones. But the best way to visualize true equivocate is all roads lead to one, right? It's no matter which option they pick, you have described the scenario vague enough that they don't really know where they're going to go, and you can just have, no matter, every option they pick lead to the same thing. So imagine you get to a forest path and they are looking for, I don't know, the goblin camp. And they're like, oh, there's a fork in the road. It splits 3 ways, right? One has apples hanging, one has, I don't know, cherries, and the other has bats in the trees, right? Which path would you like to go? You can have it preset that it doesn't matter which one they pick. They just find the goblin camp. That is, at the core sense, equivocate. Now, there's some drawbacks, because obviously if you have it set up where people can split up, you can't do this. So this is more for a one-party encounter. If they want to backtrack and go check the other paths, obviously you run into problems. But the core idea of this is, hey, you present a choice, but it's actually a false choice. All roads lead to Rome, for lack of a better description. Now, this doesn't have to apply to actual paths, right? This can also apply to dialogue and conversation, right? You can have it so that your players need to roleplay with someone, right, in order to get something from them. And you see this kind of often in, I think this is probably one of the most common things that a new QM will do, or a QM doing a really big quest where they can't necessarily have detailed scripts for every NPC. They basically go, you're playing a merchant, you have this item that is way too expensive to buy, they need to get it from you somehow, right? So you're essentially letting them equivocate how they get the thing. It doesn't matter, you don't have anything planned, just whatever they do will eventually get them the thing, right? No matter what they choose, they're choosing right, they get the thing, provided the NPC is aware enough to do that. And this is where we can talk about how NPCs play into true equivocate, which is they need to know that it's supposed to happen. So you just need to be very clear that, hey, however they choose to go about it, that can succeed. Or you can even say, hey, the first thing they try fails, and then the second thing they try works, right? Or, feel it out and do what you want. They eventually need to get this. That's an equivocate, even though it doesn't really sound like it. It's, you didn't have it planned. The players got to do whatever they wanted. If the first thing they tried was, let's try to, I don't know, let's try to bribe the merchant, right? And then that doesn't work through whatever RP, and then they're like, okay, well, I guess then we'll bake him a cake and say it's his birthday, and I don't know, try to steal it while he's eating the cake. Sure, there it goes, it works. And they feel proud because the idea they came up with worked. You didn't write into the quest, okay, players must find flour by killing some flour demons, and then get the oven from the oven demons, and then candles from the candlestick maker, and bake a cake, and then give it to the guy, and then he will eat it. And no, right? You're not going to write that. So this is how equivocate is used to really simplify what you need to write and give you genuinely better outcomes from your players, because they feel like they have that choice. So that's true equivocate. Number 2, reskinning. So reskinning is used when you have a specific encounter or mechanic that you want to use, but you still want to offer choice, and also you want to not be vague, right? So equivocate works whenever you can be ominously vague about where they're going and what's going to happen, so they don't know how something's going to play out. But what if it's like what's the example? So the example here is the princess, the princess needs your help, right? Or we've heard words of a princess in distress, right? There's the goblin whatever path over here, and there's the path to the kingdom over there, right? Do you want to go talk to the royal knights, or do you want to go to the goblin camp? And there's 2 different ways that they can go, right? Let's say they get to the goblin camp first, and for whatever reason they interact positively with the goblins, right? Whereas you were planning on them, or you are, the natural assumption would be goblins are bad, kingdom people are good. If they go to the goblins and they act positively, reskinning and being able to reskin and flip the script, right, lets you tell the story you want to tell without wasting time forcing them to go back and forth. So in this case, you can literally have the goblins be missing their princess, right, and have the royal guard have the evil whatever, right? So you're just reskinning something that you've already planned so that it fits, and you don't have to readjust what they're going to experience. You just reskin the costumes and reskin the story over top of it. All right. We're going to go through some actual live examples later. But like I just mentioned, this can be done with roleplay conversations as well, right? Let's say you want to have a bribing contest, or something where people need to bribe, and that's a whole thing that you really want. They've been collecting actual little gems and tokens, and you want people to bribe something, and it's meant to be bribing a goblin. But let's say they go murder the goblins, right? You can then have you can reskin part of your quest, right, to have the bribing section in it, so they still get to experience your bribing section. It is now being done in a different way, right? Because remember, the story is why they're doing it, so you're reskinning why they're doing it, but the bribe will still happen. All right. This is where I guess I can mention that pre-planning and preparation is important, but I hope you can see so far how it's not as straightforward as just planning 8 million possible V outcomes, right? It's about knowing what you want to do, and then planning, okay, how can I reskin this if they choose to do X or Y? What's my backup plan? And usually you only need one, right? So in this case, let's look at the princesses, right? This one's very easy to flip. You have the 2 places that they can go. Whichever one they be nice to, right, is the one that has the good princess, and the other ones are the bad guys. So whatever enemy encounters you have, you just literally flip, right? And that can be as easy as just twirling around the NPCs, or just telling them, hey, you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. And if it becomes very expansive, like I know the example I gave here could potentially flip the entire story of the entire quest, so that would require a little more kajiggering. But if you're just at like a Shire level or a Barony level, and there's only like one group of people and a bunch of NPCs going from location to location, they're probably playing all the same roles anyway. So you can just be like, okay, humans are bad now, goblins are good. This is what we're doing, right? And roll with it from that. So that's reskinning. And the last one you have is the exact opposite of this, which is retrofitting. Retrofitting is changing what's under the hood while leaving the story skin intact. So, here's an example. Let's say at some point the players are forced to, let's say they have a potion. There's a special potion or an elixir or a healing thing that they need to recover to cure the dying unicorn. They get that, and along the way, it gets stolen from them somehow. The thief runs away and runs down a fork in the road, right? Or just runs ahead of them out of sight. As they're traveling, they ask someone, oh, hey, did you see a guy? You know, did you see a thief? And that person basically gives them two options or a couple options. One of the options is, oh, I think I saw someone maybe go down to a lake. And the other option is, oh, I think I saw someone go to a graveyard, right? And here, you genuinely want to present two different options for what they want to do. You're actually giving the players a free choice. Hey, would you like to play a game at this pond, right? Well, you're not actually telling them what it is, right? But you're going to basically say, hey, if you choose to go to the lake, right, maybe the bandit will throw the potion into the water, and then you'll have to do some sort of underwater swimming type game, right, to get it. And if you go to the graveyard, maybe he'll hide it in a bell tower, and you've got to do like a zombie defense thing, right? So one is more roleplay, one is more combat-y, right? And you want to give the players this option, but you want the story to be the same. So in this case, no matter which path they pick, the bandit is there, right? And he goes, you're here, and does something to try to foil them, and then they need to progress through whichever left or right in order to advance the plot. By retrofitting how you get the potion back, you are able to continue your story, but while still offering them the choice. You don't have to be like, oh, well, you went to the lake, nobody's there, but hey, there's a mini-game vendor, and you can play this diving game, right? If you're going to write something twice, don't expect both people to go both ways. Write it so that it's one way or the other. And this way, again, they feel like they picked the right path, and everything goes on as normal, right? And I'm not saying don't make situations where people can pick the wrong path. I'm saying if you're equivocating, obviously most of the time, it's a matter of essentially tricking the players into thinking there is, the illusion of free choice. So, the final part of this is mix and match. You can do all of these together, and the best example of this is with a between quest days, right? So you wouldn't necessarily do this live, although there are small instances where you can, but you can put all three together if you run a quest where there are certain lingering questions in the players' minds, and then at the end of the quest, you ask the players, either in character or out of character, however, to make guesses about what they think is going to happen, where they think it's going, that kind of stuff. And then you literally do that in the next quest. So you give the illusion that you have a quest and story planned out, but you let them essentially decide based on everything that's happened in the course of the quest, right? So you keep certain plot points and future predictions about your quest vague enough that they go, this is a thing, but how's it gonna here, right? And they can let them piece it together in their head, right? So then they go, I think this, and because the true equivocate was there, it's vague, they can make that guess, it sounds logical, and then in your spare time, you reskin and retrofit whatever ideas you had to accommodate that change, right? If people get to the end of a quest and you go, who's the murderer? And they literally pick the good guy, and the murderer is like the person they think is the most innocent, then change it. Make that the case, right? A lot of the time you're going to find that since the players are not picking up the entirety of the story, that if you do these if you just throw them every single bone, it's fine, right? So I know some players or some QMs want to like challenge their PCs and be like, I want to make them think. No, like you can try, and it's definitely, it's definitely fine to do that every once in a while. My advice is, if you're going to challenge your PCs, their logical, ability to retain storyline stuff, make those optional. Because on the whole, there's so much going on, in addition to the fact that their brains are being used to process the game of Amtgard itself, right? That just logical choices, everything they guess is correct. Try to roll with that, and people will have a more fun time, because the illusion that they could be wrong is always going to be there. They're always going to be worried, what if this is wrong, right? And that is going to make the fact that things are right seem that much better. And you're thinking, oh well, but you're telling us this now, doesn't that ruin it for anyone who's going through it? When you're in the heat of the moment and you're going through stuff, most of the time you're going to forget that equivocating stuff is even a thing. And even after that, does it really matter? How many times have you played a video game where you're picking the paths because you're like, well, that's clearly the path we need to go, so we're going to go down this path to get treasure and this path to... You're enjoying the experience, right? If people start coming to you and complaining that their intelligence is being questioned by the fact that they're overtly aware of too much equivocate, then either dial back the equivocate, do some just regular stuff for a while, or consider throwing special, extra little thinky bits in just for them. Cool. So at this point, I would like to open it up for a couple questions. If anyone has anything they would like to ask about what I've covered so far, the 3 different types, how they work, those kind of things. Anyone have any questions about that? Anyone confused about how they're supposed to be working, that kind of thing? If you have it, go ahead and unmute yourself or type in chat. Lovely. Okay. So, Bunk, what works best? You're wondering, you're writing a quest and you're like, man, which one of these do I use? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on what your situation is and what you want to preserve. So obviously, if you have a specific story idea that you're like, man, I really want this story beat to happen, I really want this plot point to go ahead, then using the retrofitting works very well, because you can now present choice, always run the same story line, and just change what happens under the hood. If you are deliberately trying to give them a bunch of choices where you have very detailed layouts of like where and what they might see in the various areas, right? Reskinning a mechanic might work, because then you can be like, down this place is orcs, down this place is ghosts, down this place is dragons, down this place is humans, right? And you can give them all these choices and pros and cons, and again, you're being vague, you're being equivocating, right? And then when they go, it's going to be the same thing no matter what, just reskinned as either orcs or ghosts or dragons or humans. And then true equivocate is good when you just want to be vague. When you just want them to make any choice, that's your false choice, right? So if you don't want to present them with any information, true equivocate is always going to be good. I will caution that players obviously like to ask questions. So if you plan for an equivocate, a straight equivocate, then you may run into the issue where they're asking questions that you or your NPCs can't answer without breaking the equivocate, right? Or there are answers that would break the equivocate, right? So, for example, if you're trying to do the thing we talked about earlier with the like, oh, there's a missing princess, you got to go help. If they start getting really detailed into like, what does she look like, right? If the NPC can say, oh, she was last seen wearing a black robe, she was fleeing through the woods, that's great. That applies for both goblin and human princess, right? But if you say, oh, she's fair-skinned with pointy ears and whatever and 6 feet tall, right? Then you're not gonna be able to swerve to goblin unless you want to do like a albino goblin, a giant albino goblin, right? Which then seems ham-fisted. So it does require thought. Some of these, what I'm suggesting all feels like freebies where you can kind of just do whatever and it doesn't matter, but you do need to plan these pretty specifically in order for them to work efficiently, because they can collapse. Okay. It is time for some... Who's trying to turn me into a giant albino goblin? Says Vale. So, that's time for some live examples. So, we need a questing party. Who is going to be our questing party? We need, need like 3 people.
Open.
All right, we got a Jeet. Anyone else? Someone else speak up.
I'll go questing.
All right, we have a Finola. We need one more.
I'll join.
And a Petra. Okay, hello. You guys are the part of our little adventuring party. So this is what's going to happen. Everyone else can watch. So I'm going to lead them through a little area. And they're just going to make some choices, do some things. Obviously, if you want to cast things or fight, we'll just narrate our way through that. Just say you're doing it. But this is just to explain the example of how some stuff can work. Okay? And I want to challenge you guys as PCs to maybe try to think about where I'm trying to go and maybe try to throw me off, I guess. Right? Don't be too rude. Don't be like, we teleport to the moon. All right? So, example number 1. You are 3 adventurers, and you've heard of bandits roaming through the forests. The king has asked you to go handle these bandits. He points you in the direction of the forest and sends you on your way. You proceed through the forest and you eventually come across a small semi-hidden path, and in that path, or down that path, you can vaguely make out what looks to be a bunch of like huts and like a little makeshift camp. What would you like to do?
I would like to spend time surveying the area and setting the area up with traps.
Fair. Finola, what would you like to do?
I'll cover Jeet to make sure that nobody gets the drop on him while he's trying to get the drop on them, because sometimes things happen.
Perfect. Petra?
I think I'm going to watch who's coming in and out of the village.
It's a little makeshift camp.
Okay, the camp, I want to know how many people go in and out during the time that they're off setting traps.
All right, fair. So, Jeet and Finola spend some time protecting each other and setting up traps kind of around the perimeter, at least on their side of that camp, while Petra takes a look and scouts and sees inside the camp there's a number of orcs, and they seem to be, doing things that one would do in a camp. They're making some food. They've got like a pheasant roasting over the fire. Some of them are sharpening their weapons. It looks like maybe there's 3 of them. How would you like to proceed? Your traps are all set.
Could we make a big bonfire that would put them through almost like the gauntlet of traps? Like, it's almost like we make a bonfire and then they would have to on a bit of ways away, and in order to investigate this, they would have to go through the where we set up a majority of traps.
I like.
type of deal. Like
You want to light the forest on fire to herd them through the traps?
I would like to start a fire, a controlled burn that's
Okay.
very healthy for the environment in certain climates. And this is one of those climates.
Okay.
I like
Ar-
the idea of them coming to us and like giving them something to look at, because if these are our bandits, then they're gonna jump on someone just sitting on the side of the road with a campfire, even if it's a slightly big campfire.
Why don't we make a small, like an okay sized campfire, but not a huge bonfire gonna burn on the forest? I'll put on my noble's clothes, since I'm a noble, and I'll look all defenseless and cute and see if they come and try and rob me, and then we can just attack them if they're the bandits.
And if we get the right wood, it'll be a very smoky fire.
All right. So you spend some time setting up your controlled fires on kind of either side. Are you going to light these fires before or after Finola starts being the diversion?
After.
Okay. So you get them all in place. Jeet and Petra are ready to light the flames. And Finola gets on her noble's clothes and starts doing her best traveling noble impression as she walks down the trail. As she's moving down, I'm assuming she's going to make some kind of noise, so she's not completely silently stalking down the path.
She is singing Life in Wolvenfang.
Ah, perfect. So, Petra and Jeet, as you're looking at the camp, you see the orcs perk up as they hear the songs of Finola singing. They get up, they start clanging on their weapons, and you see two more orcs actually pop out of the tents. They pick up some of their weapons, and all of them start heading towards the wood. Two of them actually start spreading around for like a wide flank that they look like they're going to go really far away on either side. And then three of them are coming right down where you guys have set up your traps. They are in the area where the fire would need to be lit, if you'd like to proceed with that.
Yeah, they're moving in an attack formation. Almost certainly are bandits. Burn.
All right, the fires are lit, and they go up pretty well. Looks like you guys are pretty experienced at lighting these fires, and as they light up, the two flanking orcs on the side actually get spooked a little bit and run back to reconvene with their side friends to make sure they don't get separated by these flames. They group up together and move straight down the middle. What kind of traps did you set up, by the way?
Ones that like pull them up by their
Like
ankles,
snares?
hang them from the tree. Snares. There's a couple that are like spring-loaded, about knee-high or thigh-high spikes that come right around. Think like Predator 1.
Yep. So like the kneecapper things?
Solid. Yeah.
All right. So, as they're coming through down the trail, they move through and they reach your various traps, and due to your expert survival skills that I'm sure you all have, your traps are perfectly placed in the way, and they're actually too busy focused on the fires that are going on, trying to figure out what's happening, that they're moving towards her rather quickly, lest she get distracted by the fire. And one by one, they each get picked up. Two of them get flung up into the air, hanging by the trees. One of them gets kneecapped and falls down face first. And then two of them break into a sprint and try to run, and they're just running straight to the road right now. They seem more of in a panic than in an actual attempt to rob Finola. How would you like to proceed? Three of them are incapacitated. Two of them are running towards Finola.
Finola will stand and light a fireball in her hand and stare down the orcs. It's probably time you surrender, boys.
The orcs pull one of those like cartoon heel stops as they reach the side of the as they reach the end of the path where Finola's there, dropping her ruse and lighting the fireball. With Jeet and Petra behind them, and them now realizing that the rest of their friends are tied up and they are very outnumbered, they raise their hands in surrender. Congratulations, you have captured the bandits. Yay! So,
Also, I would like to propose that our squad name be the Drop Bears because we get the drop on all of our enemies and targets.
perfect. Love it. So, in that example, I hope everyone watching noticed this as well. So, I literally just went along with whatever they were going to do. So, my whole the only point of this was for them to have an engagement with bandits. If they would have went and interacted positively with the orcs would not have been bandits. And there would have been like human bandits down the road. But because they basically started going, I think these are the bandits, that's the way we went, right? They laid down traps, and it wasn't, oh no, your traps don't work. They're aware of you. No, it's okay. Traps, that's the way we're going. Cool. Traps is what's happening. That's what's gonna work, right? Oh, we're gonna lure them to the thing. Yeah, we're gonna lure them to the thing, right? Oh, you're gonna use the fires. Oh, okay, fires are gonna do something, and that if you're doing a real life sense of things, right, would just basically require making sure your NPCs know to roll with it, even from a combat sense. And that's, I think, a hard thing to get through to some of your NPCs sometimes, because they just want to get in there and whack, whack, whack. But, so, I guess, Finola, Petra, Jeet, did you guys have fun with that little encounter? Do you guys feel like, hey, we did a thing and it worked and we got him?
Yeah, it was fun.
Right? Like, even the fact that at the end of that, Jeet was like, hey, we should call ourselves Team Drop Bears, means that he got a positive enough, like, yeah, that was cool, from it, that he wanted to name the team based on their plan. So they owned that plan. I didn't say you need to bait and lure and trap the orcs. That was their choice, and therefore he got that little story out of it, and that's something he can take with him, and that is an organic story. Cool? Make sense? I'm gonna take the no comments everywhere. Oh, you guys muted yourselves already. Perfect. Okay, let me turn this off. All right, let's do one more example. Who would like to be the adventuring party this time? We are going to do one more example. We need 3 volunteers.
Go.
Cool. We have a Rajavia. Who will adventure with Rajavia?
I mean, like, I'll
If
go
no
again
one
if
else wants to go, we'll go with Jeet again. Let's try to get two different people. I'd like to see 2 different people. I see a Gil unmuting.
I'll join in on this one.
Okay, we got Gil and Rajavia, and one more. Brudrin's
All
unmuted.
drawings.
All right, cool. Gil, Rajavia, and Brudrin. Welcome. All right, here is your adventure. So, you have been given a amulet. The amulet was discovered sitting on the side of a fountain. No one knows how it got there, but all we know is that the small town elder was able to discern that it is magical. And he has sent you off into the caves of mystery in order to discern the purpose of this amulet. Alrighty? So, you're going to be heading into the caves of mystery. What would you like to bring with you on your little adventure here?
Well, clearly, torches.
I'll bring my wagon.
Cool.
Into a cave.
Well, yeah.
Fair. Brudrin?
Basic backpack full of some supplies and lots of rope.
All right. So you guys gear up for spelunking, and you follow the town elder's instructions to the mystical cave of mystery. And inside the cave of mystery, just past the entryway, you notice that the amulet begins to glow. It begins to shimmer, oh so faintly, but it is glowing. And the further you venture into the entrance of the cave, it begins to glow brighter and brighter. As you... Oh, sorry.
No, she's just, you know, trying to figure out why it's glowing.
All right.
So, anybody else think this is probably a trap, and this is Aimless just trying to lure us into like the mouth of some giant stone fish or something that's going to eat us?
Sure.
Probably.
Sure. And so the cave eats you. No, okay. So you move on down the path, and eventually you come across what looks like some piles of bones in front of you. As you approach, the amulet begins to glow brighter and brighter. Would you like to approach?
See previous statement about this is a trap.
Oh, yes. I'm going to go touch the bones.
Brujin, would you like to leave? You can leave the cave if you'd like.
No, I started this adventure. I'm not going to leave these people to
If
their
you
death.
try leaving, I will tie you to the wagon.
All right. Who has the amulet, by the way?
Me.
All right. As you approach the skeletons, the amulet grows brighter and the skeletons reanimate themselves, pulling their bones up, and then slowly starting to shamble towards you.
Look,
Garfield,
I
is
made
that
new
you?
friends.
I am one of you. Well, inside me is one of you. Don't kill me.
Oh, look, they're just lonely.
The skeletons shamble up to Rajavia and then stop in front of her as if waiting some instruction.
Oh, I totally teach the skeletons to play patty cake.
All right. You teach the skeletons how to play patty cake. As
See,
they're Sorry?
I don't understand why people think skeletons are scary. Look at these guys; they're great.
I've seen too many of them.
As they're playing patty cake, the road up ahead begins to rumble, and you hear something in the distance further down the cave. How would you like to proceed?
That's ominous.
Let's
I
go
I
find
think
out
we-
what it is.
We should go investigate with the skeleton army.
All right, moving down the cave. Moving downwards into the cave, the amulet begins to glow brighter and brighter and brighter until eventually you reach a fountain, and on the fountain is an image of, looks like an old wizardy kind of dude, and his hands are outstretched, and on the statue you see very clearly what looks like a slot for the amulet.
Sorry, I got distracted by the skeletons. What were we doing here again?
We were supposed to find out what the amulet was. So far, what we found is the amulet seems to let you control these skeletons. I think that's a good answer.
But this statue, I think if we put it on, it'll control the
But
skeletons.
that might not be to our advantage.
Also, it's a statue.
Well, it could be a guy that's just like encased in stone. I know what? I like my skeleton army, so I'm gonna keep my skeleton army. Let's go.
Anybody want to help me push over the statue?
Statue
If it
thing?
is a person, there's no need to disrespect it. I'd say let's go with Rajavia and let her keep her skeleton army.
I mean, you know what? We found out that the amulet reanimates the dead. There we go. Problem solved.
Or at least these specific undead.
Yeah, you know, I want to keep the skeleton army, so I say we leave. Don't tempt fate.
Fair. You turn around and you begin to head outside and back to the town. As you reach the precipice of the cave, the skeletons come to a halt as the amulet grows dimmer once again, leaving the cave.
Aw.
So it's a really limited form of control skeletons. It only works in the cave. So if
Wait.
you ever want to use your skeleton army, you have to lure the other army into the cave.
I have an idea. It seems
Okay.
we got further away from the statue. The skeleton stopped reanimating. I have an idea.
You have a wagon.
Yeah, I have a wagon. Let's.
I see where you're going with this.
Okay.
I am all on board.
Okay. Can
Back
please
to
say
the
out
wagon.
loud for the
Take
rest
the
of the
wagon.
audience what you're planning to do?
So we're gonna take Gil's wagon and we're gonna go and we're gonna pick up the statue and see if that affects the range of the amulets. So we're gonna take the statue with us and hopefully the skeleton army can come too.
All right.
And people questioned me for taking a wagon into a cave.
Okay, I take that back. That was brilliant.
So you head back into the cave and you slide the big statue with the help of your skeleton buddies onto the wagon. And as you slide it onto the wagon, you can hear whispers from within the statue. It's whispering.
I go to the statue. Sorry, I don't deal in whispers. Speak up and speak properly, or don't speak at all.
It's you hear whispers speaking out to you, asking it for freedom and to be released.
Oh, no speaky common.
Like there's something stuck inside the statue.
I tap it to see if it's hollow.
Nope, it is not hollow. It is solid.
Oh, what's in it for us?
It just keeps saying, asking for release, and it offers you eternal life in exchange for its freedom.
Oh, no, because we're gonna free it and it's gonna stick us in the statue and then we'll be like alive forever in a statue in a cave.
Also, I'm a dwarf. I live for a long time anyway, and you're like a robot, so you're gonna live for a long time anyway. So.
But Gil might not.
You can't kill me. I have true grit.
See, we're all gonna live for a long time anyway. So.
Yay!
Yeah, we just ignore the statue.
All right.
When we drag it out of the cave.
Cool. You put the statue on the wagon and you drag it on the cave, and much to your surprise, your plan works, and you are able to bring the skeletons with you, and the amulet continues to glow very brightly as you leave the cave, letting your skeleton companions follow with you.
Perfect. Send a message back to the town saying, hey, it reanimates the dead, but we wouldn't want the dead to overcome your town, so we're going to make sure that the dead stay away from your town by not coming back. You can just forward our payment to this address.
All right. Are you going to do anything with the statue?
Oh, no.
You're just going to leave it on the wagon and it's just a power source for the thingy?
It's the battle standard we take into battle.
Perfect. All right. Lovely. All right. So, with that said, you have now solved the mystery of the amulet, and you have definitely removed whatever was ailing the Cave of Mystery as well, and that and you guys get to keep the amulet and the interesting statue as your plaything for the future. There's a little voice inside that's always asking to be freed, but yeah, as long as you manage that, you guys have yourself a nice little reanimate dead amulet. There you go. Congratulations.
And most importantly, we have taken our first step to taking over the world.
Exactly.
So...
Watch out, Linagon. We're coming for you.
So, good job. Applaud this next team. Good job. Thank you for solving the problem. Now, as you can see with this one, obviously this one ended up being a little goofier, right? And understandably, in order to execute this one, you'd have to have a little more preparation. Now, my plan coming in with this was that I wanted there be an amulet, and that the amulet essentially would control the dead, and the story I wanted to basically tell was there was a problem in the cave, and that was it. Mystery, I wanted the amulet to do something, and then I wanted them to have to solve something. I wanted them to go into the cave and solve something. I didn't have any encounters planned. I just wanted them to go in and roleplay. Now, in a real-life setting, I would have had probably those two skeleton NPCs, right? Depending on how they approach the skeletons, that could have been a little fight, right? Where the amulet then would have been reanimating the undead for them to fight. Depending on how they interact with the statue, right? If they would have put, let's say, the amulet on the statue, then maybe they would have had to fight some skeletons there. And this is an example of retrofitting, where I follow I have the storyline of what I want to maintain intact, but I'm going to now adjust the underneath with maybe a couple parts, different parts that I have preset based on what they do, right? But to always maintain the story that I have on top that I want to tell of cave needs solving and amulet does this, right? So I didn't break that at any point. They chose how they wanted to solve the problem. At the end of the day, cave is solved. They know what the amulet does, and they get a cool thing at the end that I'm like, what exactly? So, wagon did its thing. They brought the wagon, it got used. That's another super important part, right? If players bring a thing, especially if it's a physical thing into a quest, like rope or like whatever, they're going to want to use it. And if you say, no, doesn't work, that sucks, and it you know, kind of squelches their overall enjoyment, and then in their brain kind of forces that railroad, right? Makes the story feel less organic. If you say yes and their stuff works, it feels more organic. It feels like they were in control of the story, and just like you saw, right? They told the story. I didn't say, yeah, go into the story, steal the statue with your wagon. That was never planned. That was just something that I enabled them, right? Cool? Does anyone have any questions about those? Anything that they're when they were listening, when they were watching, where they had any sort of like, but how would you apply this, or that how does this work in terms of like actual live role play, that kind of thing? Any questions before we move on? All right. So, with that, we are going to your turn. So, at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to get a couple groups of volunteers who want to volunteer to be our storytellers, and we're going to do the same kind of thing, except we're going to have like roles reversed, right? So we're going to see how many people would like to participate in this. You'll get one turn as the storyteller person, and then one turn as the adventuring party again. And it'll be really quick. Who would like to volunteer?
I will volunteer.
Cool. We have one. Come on, we need more than that. This is an interactive workshop. We need some interaction for our interactive workshop. Brudrin, you want to jump in again?
Not right now.
Okay, Petra?
Sure, I'll take another.
Beautiful.
I'll jump in.
Vale, awesome. Admiral, you want to join?
I don't have access to my hands. I'm working on a thing.
Oh, okay. Gil, you want to jump in?
Sorry, I'm trying to fix audio driver issues.
Lovely. Everyone's side questing. We need one more person. One more volunteer. Finola.
I can jump in.
Perfect. All right. So, what I'd like you to do now is we have other voice rooms. So in here you can see we've got NaNoWriMo voice and the scheduled event voice. I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes, and I'd like you to split into groups of 2. So let's say we're going to do, I'll just go in order here. We'll do Petra and Vale and Jeet and Finola. You two will be the pairs. And I'd like you to split into those voice rooms, and I'm going to give you something that needs to happen, or an equivocate method. And then I'd like you guys to talk a little bit about a little kind of story to set that up, and then the other team will go through it, and then you will go through the other teams. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. So if you guys would let me here, I'll send you your prompts. I'm going to send Vale a prompt first.
Where are you sending my prompt?
In a private message.
Okay.
And we're going to go to Finola. Finola, I'm going to send you your prompt.
Petra, do you want to join me in general voice?
Okie dokie.
We shall.
So I have just a general question for those who might be wondering, Gumjaw.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it as a quest master or a game master to be fluid?
Just 1 second. Finola and Jeet, do you have your... I just sent you the thing.
Yeah, I've got it.
Cool. So, just remember, we don't want to go super long with these. So, that's all you have. Cool.
All right.
And it can be anything you want. Use kind of the live examples I gave as kind of a blueprint. And all you need to do is make sure whatever I sent you happens. And that is all.
Go to scheduled event voice.
Yep.
Cool.
And I'm just going to go... Let me go give a quick notice to Petra and Vale real quick. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Just a quick reminder that all you need to do is make sure whatever I sent you happens. And don't make it super long. And that's all that matters. And try to, obviously make it enjoyable and not just an auto finish. Cool?
Okay.
It doesn't matter if it's good. Have fun with it. Remember, the most important thing is the illusion of choice. So you want to let the players choose where they want to go and try to get them to where they need to go based on how they're choosing rather than forcing them down a path. Cool?
Okay.
It's all good. I will be in Feature Park. All right. Rajavia, you had a question? I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock here. 9:20.
Yes, no, just for those who are watching, we're not doing this live. We've talked about, being able to change on the go. What advice would you have for a quest master who is maybe a little more married to what they want to see happen, as opposed to just, allowing it to flow?
So that is where that's why there's multiple types of the equivocate. At the end of the day, these are ways to help make organic storytelling. If you are like, I want to have at some point they need to run into this camp of orcs, and this camp of orcs is going to force them to play a frisbee minigame, right? If that is 100% what you want to happen, then put that in there. Right? Then your equivocate may come in the smaller minutia of those interactions. Right? also there is a level of equivocate you can do to sort of reskin or retrofit depending on how the players are going, right? So give me an example of something you would be married to.
Oh, so this will be like a D&D example where a game master is like, well, you guys didn't go left, you went right, and all my encounters were to the left. Something like that where as somebody who's running the game, you're so focused on you have to go this way. What advice do you give them to be a little more fluid in it?
So the advice is, and I think the whole moral of this whole lecture is, don't write yourself into a situation where the players have to go left, and if they go right, it messes everything up. That's where equivocate helps. It means you don't have to worry about what if they do the wrong thing. They will do exactly the thing that they need to be doing, right? That's where the vague equivocate helps. So let's say you have the specific encounters you want them to do, right? So you give them the illusion of choice of left or right, but no matter which way they pick, that will lead to the encounters that you planned, right? That's a subtle way. If you want to refine that example, I can explain it in a different way.
No, just for anybody who's not here live, who's just watching later on. That's all. Just to re-emphasize that.
Yeah, for sure.
Myself, when I GM, I have my plot points, and frankly, I don't care how the characters get to those plot points, as long as they get there.
Yes, exactly.
Even if it means stealing a cursed statue from a cave and walking off with a skeleton army.
Yeah, and I will, now I'll take the time to mention that it is way easier to do it in D&D, where you are the sole person running everything, than it is to do in Amtgard. So in Amtgard, you need to worry, like I mentioned before, about your PCs and whether or not your party can split up or not, right? If everyone is trying to, let's say you have a big sandbox quest where where all the groups can split up, and they need to, and different parties can interact with the same PCs. Obviously, you can't have one interaction be super violent, aggressive, they're the Dark Lords of the universe, and the other interaction have them be like the saviors of, Grayskull or whatever. You lost video?
Yeah, no, you're not streaming anymore.
When did that happen?
Right after you sent everybody everywhere else.
Yeah, when you switch channels.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Well, the record is fine. The record has everything. So you didn't miss much. Cool. And you guys can see again?
Yep.
Beautiful. All right. Yeah. So in those sandbox situations where you have it where you can't drastically flip the script like that, that's where your equivocate has to be based on more the internals, where you're either retrofitting or you're equivocating the dialogue actions, right? And it gets more complicated and harder to do the more broad and the more variables you add into it. Like, I'm not saying by any means that this is easy. This is a case by case, but just learning the whole idea of yes and trying to go with whatever the players kind of suggest. Can you fulfill that as a way that they can get to the end? That helps. Right? It just saves so much pre-planning if you can just have, hey, we've got these couple things, do this, right? You let's say you have an orc camp and it's in one like a big bot quest and people are going to be coming by. Give them a couple different things that they can do, right? Just the mechanics, right? And tell them, hey, when people interact with you, at the end of the day, they need to get this from you. So if they come in and they want to RP with you, cool. If they want to fight you, cool. If they want to challenge you or do something, or there's some weird side thing, you have some extra gear to do a couple other things that we've provided so you can make that work, right? And to the players, they don't know what is and isn't planned, so it seems planned, and therefore everyone is happy. All right, let me go bring back the others, and we'll get on with this.
That the bandit throws it in the water and the fish gets it.
Hello, hello.
Nom nom fish.
Hello.
Are you guys ready?
I
Sure
yes,
am.
we are.
All right, come on back to main chat. I'm going to remember to re-go live. There we go. Everyone can see me again? Hello, hello?
Hello.
Hello.
I have
Perfect.
returned.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So now we are going to experience 2 more little stories. And we're going to have Finola and Jeet. They are going to tell the story for Vale and Petra. And then we're going to flip, and the other 2 will do it the other way. And I will be here. I'll just call it. I'll keep an eye on our time and call it if things start getting a little long. Or I'll give you a, hey, we need to wind things up. And this is actually another great reason why Equivocate can help. If you're running your quest and you start running out of time, and like the Sightcrat or the Autocrat comes to you and goes like, hey, feast is in like half an hour or something like that. Knowing how to equivocate can help you wrap up those loose ends without making it feel like you're just like, oh, the dragon appears. Right? And that's lame. So, who would like to go first between as the QMs? Team Drop Bears or our team Veil plus Statue?
But I was on Drop Bears.
That's what I was about to say.
Okay.
We don't have a team.
Team Drop Bears and Team Half Drop Bears.
Very well.
We can go first.
Okay. So Team Drop Bears, you are the QMs. Vale and Petra, you are the PCs in this. The floor is yours.
It's a staggeringly humid day as you walk through the woods. The shadows are everywhere, but still, the beams of light from the sun, whenever it hits you, you feel it even go through whatever armor or cloak that you have on. The forest itself blocks out any wind coming in to give you a reprieve. Except you hear a thundering caw overhead. A shadow overtakes the whole area, and you feel a breeze brush through. What do?
So you're telling me you gave me a magical sunbed and then ripped it away right at the same time? I want my sunbed back.
I stand up and enjoy the damn breeze.
Sorry, I'm confused. What's a sunbed?
Well, you had all this sun that supposedly penetrated my armor. It's perfect for a tan.
Yeah, just the heat of the iron, of the sun.
Well, I want my tan, so I'm charging after your loud coughing.
Okay, so you're running out. So you hit a clearing in this forest, while Val looks up overhead trying to figure out what it is, and is enjoying the breeze as it washes over them.
I do end up following when I see that she's chasing after the bird.
Okay. You look up. As you look up in the direction of where the breeze is going, you see what seems to be a dark cloud going against the wind, and then it starts heading towards you. You realize that this is no cloud, an actual giant bird that caws again, and you can tell is coming straight for you. What do?
What kind of bird does it seem to be?
A rock.
Vale, do you have any idea what a rock's natural predator is? I'm gonna intimidate the bird.
I would assume a lightning elemental, but there are none of those right now, and I don't want to be eaten.
But I could pretend to be a lightning elemental.
If you want to do that, go for it.
Hit me with lightning. I've got this.
I throw lightning bolts in the air because I'm a wizard and I can do that.
I start spewing curse words in elemental, which happen to be the only words I know in that language.
So lightning is hitting all over, coming down from the clear sky, shooting out from the trees, and because you chose lightning elemental, it's just a bunch of thunder. But you feel anyone who hears the thunder feels offended for some reason, and they don't know why. Luckily, the grand show takes Rock by surprise because it's a clear day. There wasn't supposed to be any lightning or elementals here, so it kind of does like it does a hard bank, and you could tell that it had so much momentum, having trouble keeping its mass from going in that direction. So as it's getting closer and closer to you, it's getting more frantic, and all of a sudden, a bunch of droppings start raining down around you as you literally scare the crap out of this rock. So now, the rock seems to be heading in the other direction, but now you have a new problem in your hands as droppings start coming at you at a very high velocity. What do you do?
I do my best to dodge the literal buku falling out of the sky right now. Because umbrellas haven't been invented yet.
Vale's taller than me. I use a human shield.
Well, I'm running away. I'm basically trying very hard to run away from the turds.
Well, then that's not going to help me now, is it?
This is your fault.
Guess it's a good thing I brought a shield. I mean, it's gonna be hard to clean, but I guess I'll use the shield instead of Vale shield.
So you're pretty much duck and covering behind the shield?
Yes.
Cool. So Vale, as you're running, you're trying to find the densest parts of the trees and dipping, diving as what should not be rain comes tumbling down upon you. You get a bit messed up, but still, you seem to be you're still standing upright by the time that the horrific mess is upon the ground. Petra, you duck and cover, and you get hit by what feels like an avalanche of the highest mountain, and you go tumbling, rolling, sliding into the trunks behind you. You as everything settles, you look up and you see the rock still circling about, but its unintended destruction has now carved a bit of a scar in the forest where you are. But luckily for you, you are now completely camouflaged from the rock, and you have somewhat of its scent on you, and you have successfully dated the rock by camouflaging yourself in its scent.
Woo! Good job. Alright, that's scene. Good job, Vale and Petra. So, G, you want to say something?
No, not really. I was really thinking a lot of yes and then I kind of used because it's theory of the mind, not theory of the mind. It's theater of the mind. I kind of went well, what would I've been crapped on by birds before, and if you get scared if you scare one, I'm yeah, you successfully scare one, and then it's going to crap its pants. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm yeah, let's see what they do with that. So it was really just, not only was I yes-ending them, I was kind of yes-ending myself, and just first thing comes to mind without having to jump and dip and dive in my own mental gymnastics.
Yeah. So the prompt that they had was the players needed to avoid a rock. That was basically all it was. That was all they needed to do. You wanted to get the players to be avoiding a rock. So in a quest, this could be as much as just there is a roaming big bird, right, that just comes around every now and then. The players need to avoid it until it comes back. And you could easily see how this interaction could have played out in Amtgard, right? Maybe the pooping thing would be a little less descriptive, but bird person shows up, players go, oh, okay, what do we think rocks are scared of? oh, okay, we think they're scared of like lightning elementals. One guy starts throwing lightning bolts in the air, the other one just starts swearing or whatever. And if the rock, in that case, the person playing the rock plays their part and goes, and gets scared, and maybe they have a couple spell balls or something, and they start narrating the poop thing and being like, throwing poop at you, right? Players then will have to dodge said poop as the rock kind of flies away. And if they get hit, the rock can be like, yeah, you're covered in poop now. You smell like, I don't know, whatever, and the rock flies away. And that's it, right? And for the players, their plan worked, and that's great. And then maybe later in the quest, when they come back, right, when the rock comes back, the rock can then, narrate to the players or whatever, like, oh, it seems like the bird doesn't notice you're there because you still smell like poop or something like that. And then the players feel even more empowered, right, because of the poop thing, right? Really, really good. Nice. All right.
Tyler, when I was going through, okay, what am I going to do next? When I said about poop, I literally thought of a couple of wizards on our field going poop, 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 and then and then throwing the spell ball.
Yeah.
As forceful, just poop, 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 and just throwing it at the players, just in random indiscretion. So
yeah, like throwing it behind as you're running away, kind of thing. Yeah. Beautiful. Good job, guys. Good job. All right. Vale and Petra, it is your turn. Finola and Jeet, you are on the adventure trail. The floor is yours.
A princess who is not me has summoned you to look for her missing bracelet. She says that witness accounts are confused. Sorry. Some people say they saw the bandit running off towards the ocean, and some people say they saw the bandit running towards the mountain. That's all she tells you.
Well, let's go check out the ocean. I like the ocean.
Sorry, are we in audience with the princess right now, or are we kind of on our own after that meeting?
On your own after the meeting.
She's a little busy preparing for her wedding.
Perfect, okay. Sorry, Fiona, what did you say where should we head?
I think we should head to the ocean.
Ocean?
Yeah.
I agree 100%. So, is there a dock system is there a docks near the ocean?
There is. You can head to the dock.
Okay. So as we get near the wharf, I asked Fiona, we've been through a lot. You trust me, right?
Yeah, I trust you.
I then reveal under my cloak a hidden pocket, and I show the bracelet that's been stolen. And I go, I stopped a mugging last night, and when everything was said and done, this bracelet came up. I was gonna fence it, but look at the markings. It matches exactly what the princess described. We should get on a ship and get out of here.
So you head down to the dock, and you get on your ship.
Oh, sorry. I'm fully intending for Fiona to be like, no, like, I do want to have a bit of agency, whether we're getting on the ship or not.
Sorry, I forgot. Sorry, I cut you off.
That's all right. But why not just go waste some time at the dock, turn around and come back and claim we found it, and then reap the rewards? She's gonna pay us, probably more than you can fleece it for.
I look, I'm like, I don't think it's just a mundane bracelet. I let her hold it, and she can to see if she can feel any magical source, and she's more learned in the magic arts. Does Fiona feel any magical power coming from this bracelet?
Oh yes.
The bracelet is not magical, but if you look at the markings, this is definitely like, this bracelet is like this culture's equivalency of a wedding ring.
He wouldn't understand that. He would need someone to go in. So if you think Fiona would understand that, then feel free to take that lead.
Okay, so it looks like it's a wedding ring. Is it engraved with specific people's names?
That would be your princess and her intended.
Okay, just double checking because it could have been a knockoff. Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure this is their bracelet, and I don't detect any magic. See right here. This is the princess's name, and she'll just kind of like point it.
So
At
this is like a one in the world like item then, right?
Okay, yeah, but it's only really valuable sentimentally, and I mean, okay, yeah, it's gems and gold, but the princess is gonna pay you more than it's worth. We could go see what it would fleece for, but I'm pretty sure the reward's
Yeah,
gonna be
but
bigger.
hear me out. If this is a one item, and we're going to be a married couple, and we could be looking like a traditional married couple, maybe we could get a couple favors if we flash us around pretending we were on a honeymoon of sorts.
With what will then be seen on the princess's bracelet wrist. Are you trying to make enemies?
I'm just saying, if we can get really far on some free ships, that we can finally get out of this dump.
Gold also gets us out of this dump, though.
I look at it, kind of just disappointed that it's not magical, because I know rich people always have magical things, and I go, yeah, you're right. I mean, we have too much dirt under our nails to be a noble couple, anyways. I kind of just
During your discussion, you notice, unfortunately, that someone has managed to detach the dock you're standing on from the shore, and you have started to float off into the ocean.
Well, that was unexpected. Can you paddle
why did
with
they
your
make
giant
your docks
sword?
exclusively out of rope? Why is there no wood on these docks?
You're the one who said this place was a piece of junk. It's just fulfilling its own prophecy.
Sorry if you want to go. I cut you
That's
off.
okay. I think if you try and row this dock, I'll try and cast wind, and I'll see if I can blow us back to shore, and you're gonna have to steer us so we don't crash and die.
For sure. So, the cloak that I had, the hidden pocket in, I kind of jerry rig it to be somewhat of a sail to catch the wind, and I break off some of the junk, and I try to use it as a rudder and paddle to try and direct our raft to some form of shoreline.
You're able to manage to rig up a bit of a sail. However, your rudder seems to be working more effectively as a paddle than as a rudder.
All I care about is that we don't crash as I try and speed us forth with wind magic.
I go and as I'm trying to rudder, I realize I don't know anything about sailing, so then I try to go to the front, and instead of using it as a rudder, I try to use it as a push stick to try and push off various things so we don't go crashing into it, and hopefully somewhere to a softer landing.
Well, the landing is somewhat soft, given you land in a bank of sand on the shore. However, in this large crash, you managed to overturn your dock and kept both of you successfully on board, but notice the bracelet is floating a bit away in the water.
Well, it's a good thing that I am a water elemental. I jump in the water and start swimming after the thing.
On your way towards the bracelet, you come face to face with a large fish who seems to have taken an equal interest in your bracelet.
Gee, you got a javelin? Spear the fish, please.
I start throwing javelins into the water in a defensive pattern around. I start throwing it, trying to hit the fish, but avoiding Fiona.
Well, let's find out how good your fishing or spearfishing is.
We can end it there. That's good. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Lost there.
Yeah, that's all good. So their prompt was they had basically the mechanics for a fishing game that they wanted to run. So they had to basically get you guys to essentially go fishing. And yeah, so you can see with what they did, they had a lot more of a challenge, especially because they got a big swerve right at the start. Do you guys want to kind of tell us, Vale and Petra, what was going through your head after that initial swerve?
My initial thought was, oh no.
My initial thought was, oh no, they can't fish if I make the fish swallow them too.
That was kind of on my head. I also thought that, like, the fish could just, like, we could have a Jonah and the whale moment, but then it's not fishing. We originally just wanted you to either go to the volcano or the ocean, and the bandit would just be there with the thing and be like, ah! And chuck it in the water or the lava, and a giant fish would grab it. But no, you had to throw us a curveball, didn't you?
This is why I quest master.
And yeah, and so this is a great example of how your players can throw you curveballs mid-quest, and how an agile storyteller and an agile NPCs can turn something that would otherwise be no, you don't, you can't have that, it's actually whatever. And just, if you roll with it, you end up with a much more interesting story that the players can tell later, right? And, like, especially if Jeet were to say that and then you actually confirm it's true, right? If this was live and Jeet does this bluff, like, yeah, I have it, and then you're like, yeah, no, you actually have the real thing. Then all of a sudden Jeet feels empowered. He's like, oh, okay, how did, like, we're, right? The whole quest is now turned because he wasn't expecting that, right? So yeah, good job. Like, you were dealt a big curveball and you guys handled that pretty well. Finola and Jeet, I hope you guys enjoyed that adventure. And yeah, everyone who's watching at home, like, I know you can't hear. Actually, no, unmute yourselves and clap. Please unmute yourselves and clap for our participants and our QMs. Awesome.
We stand.
Good job. So, you guys did a great job. You can mute yourselves again. And with that, all said and done, that brings us to our little final section. We've got about, looks like 17 minutes left for some Q&A. So if there's any other questions you have related to what we went over, this is including, what do we have? Do I have a thing here? That includes our different types of equivocating, which is true equivocate, which is retrofitting, which is reskinning, the ideas and concepts of how your game and your quest and your story all come together, like mechanics, your story skins, your plot points, and how your NPCs work. If you have questions about those, if you have ideas or thoughts, you're like, man, I really want to do this in my quest, how can I make sure it doesn't get toppled? Feel free to ask. This is open questions. Feel free to ask whatever you would like. And yeah, that's that. Does anyone have any questions?
I got a question. So, or when you're running a quest, and you have a quest team of, let's say, like 4 to 5 people, where someone's walking them through the quest, and then you have your NPCs along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know any method that's good for communicating how you're deviating from the quest line that you provided the NPCs? Because I'm assuming you were giving a skeleton and prompts that the NPCs can do along the quest, but if something happens from the beginning and deviates that, what are some good ways of communicating that to your NPCs, but without breaking immersion, saying, okay, just give me 5 minutes, I have to go tell my people what's happening now?
Yes. Okay. So, there's 2 things that will help. I guess 3 things. So first thing is you can only equivocate, and you can only use these strategies as much as you have NPCs that can reliably play as well. So you need to consider your entire, I want to say, quest staff as part of one whole, and you're only kind of as strong as the weakest link in some cases. So these strategies might not always be available if you were using like really, really green NPCs, right? You can try, and if it doesn't work, okay, then maybe the storyline seems forced, right? Having a thing where someone goes, I want to do this, and you go, no, it doesn't happen. That's not the end of the world, right? That's almost like what people are used to sometimes, right? So, 1, make sure you have the proper NPCs and game staff. 2, walkie-talkies, radios, ways that you can communicate with the player, your NPCs at a distance without having to run to them. Very important. Also, the fact that it's on a radio means that NPCs who are not engaged, especially in your scenario where it's one party traveling, other NPCs that are in different locations can get the idea of what's going on and how it's being adjusted just by overhearing the conversations. So they can kind of prepare themselves as well, right? And 3, don't try to avoid having your like point A, point B too close to each other. Give some roundabout travel time so that the NPCs have time to adjust, right? If there is a single town and literally everyone is in eyesight, you're going to have a much harder time adapting than if people are kind of farther away or the players have to go around a loop. I ran one quest, this was in Twilight Peak like years ago, where in the center of our field, so imagine this box that I'm in right now, this video screen being our field, and right in the middle-ish there's this giant like wooded foresty kind of area, and we normally field like down here, right? So what we did with the quest was we'd have stuff happen here, and then when they went to go where they wanted to go, we would tell them basically walk around the ring. And then you still end up back here, but then by the time they get back, we'll have set it up to be whatever the next thing is. And we had all our props just in an area over here, so they would leave. As soon as they're gone, we change up our thing. So we are not actually running anywhere. It's the PCs that are going on a walk. And then you have one NPC whose job it is to, while they're walking, runs the other direction and gives them that kind of like travel time filler interaction, right? Whether they're playing a random animal, whether they're playing an NPC that they can talk to, just a traveling merchant dude, whatever, that NPC goes and makes the loading time, so to speak, enjoyable, and then they come around and they do the next spot. So if your NPCs are spread out, walkie-talkies help. Travel time is another way to do it. Does that answer your question?
Those are great tips. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Question.
Yes.
What do you do if your PCs do not work well together, or even dealing with PvP?
I'm going to answer this as it pertains to the topic of the like equivocate and the organic storytelling. So obviously, when you get into a situation where the players are trying to mess with each other, you can't equivocate that. You can't say, oh yeah, for sure, you kill him, right? Or, oh, you take them hostage and make them so they can't play, they're tied up, right? There are some certain rules with that. How you handle PvP has to be stricter, and it has to be based on the nature of whether you want PvP to exist or not. I am of the mindset that in most questing environments and roleplay scenarios, you want it to largely be a PvE interaction, so you can take the benefit of everything I've mentioned today, where you can have NPCs who are trying to make accommodations for the choices of the PCs, right? Other PCs are not going to be playing that the same way, and you're going to, if interactions devolve into rules lawyering and, like an arms race of essential like god moding, that can really at best hamper things. At worst, it can completely derail a quest and change the plot into this PvP thing. So I think the answer to that is it's a topic for another day. And my general advice is be firm at the start that if your quest is designed for PvP or not. And especially if you know there's certain players who are playing who are like evil and are like evil in a very in a way where they're going to be acting literally counterintuitively to the rest of the party. Caution against it, or like I said, this is a whole branch for another video. I guess the biggest thing where it could come into play here is if your NPCs are prepared to equivocate and like bad guys show up and do a bad guy thing, and then good guys show up and are trying to do a good guy thing. And obviously you can't equivocate yes to both things very, very easily. So there's two ways. There's a quick and dirty way to solve it, which is you effectively compartmentalize the evil players away from the good players. So if you have a roving squad of like, what are you? Oh, we're the Amtgard Mafia. And they're running around together playing it in Mafia mode. Or you can even do this if you have like a blender group, right? Where they're just like, what are you? We're 7 sword knights. We're just going to kill everything till the end, right? If you have that, a quick way to do it is to effectively send them to the freaking Phantom Zone and basically put them in another dimension of the quest where they're not necessarily influencing the adventure of the others as much, as at least as far as how the NPCs are going to react, right? This runs into problems if they end up at the same place at the same time, right? And then your equivocate is going to be mostly based on trying to harmonize the two different stories that you've told. But remember, at the end of the day, your story that is being told is what they tell at the end, right? That's based on the little thing I talked about earlier. It's not the story you're trying to tell, it's the story that they're going to tell their friends later. So even though compartmentalizing them might not make sense from a, time and space perspective, as long as you can keep that from intersecting and becoming a problem, they're going to have their fun going around basically doing the evil storyline, and the good guys are going to go around having fun doing the good guy storyline. And if you basically say, hey, don't mess with each other, right? Especially if you're incentivizing the good guy and the bad guy behavior in their own storyline rather than, you're not letting them mess with each other, you're letting them mess with the NPCs, and the NPCs are built to accommodate whatever the PCs want to do, right? So if you can lure them that way, then you can really resolve that issue and hopefully stop them from fighting each other. If they are fighting each other, then, again, that's a whole question for another video. Does that answer your question? I think there's some decent tips in there.
Yep, thank you.
We have about 6 minutes left. That's time for like 1 or 2 more questions. Who's got a question? Anybody have any questions? I challenge you to think of a question and then ask them so we can fill in this last little chunk of time.
I got one.
Perfect.
So besides the exercises that we did today, which was kind of theater of the mind, that's a good place to get people started to be like, okay, this is how you get your mind thinking on things. Do you know any like on-site exercises that you can kind of get your quest team off to the side, maybe on a field day, and do to kind of help facilitate them being like, okay, this is how I can change things physically around. This is how I can be more productive on field or more like quicker on my feet when I'm out there. Any exercises like that?
Literally exactly what we just did, but live. Break into like little groups of like 2 or 3 and do have some very basic prompts, right? Either you can pre-make them or just tell the party, hey, come up with a thing that you have to do as part of your whatever, right? And make them think about it's not about just rushing them to do it. It's not a competition, right? Like, you know, Vale and Petra could have been like, you're in a carnival and there's a fishing game. What do you do? Right? And then you're like, we play the fishing game. You're like, hey, you did it. Right? That's not the point. Right? So if you can sculpt it that way where you're like, hey, the end of your thing needs to be they do a whatever, or there's this type of objective, and you just do these little mini things for each other, right? That's the best way to practice it and to see what works live and what doesn't work live. Having props helps. So see what little things you have, some spell balls, have some hula hoops, some pylons, some whatever, because the ability for your NPCs to do stuff live is going to be what they have access to make that work. And just like you mentioned how this was very theater of the mind, when you're on field, there's that extra little bit of processing that the NPCs need to do of, okay, I want to let them do this, but how do I represent that in the game? So making sure they have tools, some basic tools. Pylons are really good. Rope is really good. Just general objects that they can hold. Like, you get a ball, you get a cube. You get some things that don't have anything on them, like even just spray paint them a single color, right? So that these can be stand-in objects for when they need to happen. Cheap jewelry, Vale says, exactly. Using those and just having them in like a box that's marked like NPC only kind of tool thing lets them react on the fly and then make stuff happen based on how the PCs are trying to go about things, right? And then as you practice that, your NPCs and your quest masters will then learn how to pivot and how to make stuff happen and where things can be pivoted and where they can't. Right? Because sometimes it might be a matter of equivocating the role play to lead to a more feasible outcome rather than just being like, yes, this happens. Right? For example, when we did the cave, when they went to the cave, they tried to take the amulet, leave immediately. Right? But my goal or my objective was, they needed to clear the cave as well. So in this mentality, I needed to keep them. I couldn't say, yeah, you just leave, right? My idea in my head that happened was, oh, okay, well, the skeletons won't come with you, the thing fades, and maybe that'll entice them back in. They could have just been like, oh, cool, we know that that's what it happens, we're going to leave now, and then I would have had to think of something else to do, right? So it's these little exercises like we just did, not only provide a cool thing to do, right? Especially if you only have a field of like 6 people, right? That's a good, just, hey, spend 10-20 minutes at the start of the field thinking up your own thing, right? And then people go one way, one people go the other way. Cool. You now have had 2 little mini quests, right? Does that help?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I encourage everyone to try that. Like, definitely, well, not now. Don't go get COVID. Not now. But in the post-COVID world, I'll definitely try to bring this back up, and we can maybe have some days where we go try this out, or I'll come visit some parks and we can give it a whirl. Alrighty, cool. So with that, it is rounding out the end of my time here. Thank you so much for coming and joining me. I hope this has been insightful. I hope this has been enlightening. I hope you can take some things with you. This has all been recorded, so look for it up on the YouTubes in the future. And if you have any questions, my name is right there. You can find me on Facebook as Tyler Salvador. You can find me on Discord as Gumjaw or Tyler Salvador. My actual Discord name is Gumjaw, so if you're PMing me, look for that. And I'm more than happy to talk with you about stuff, either in voice chat or in text, or however you want to communicate with me. That is all good. There we go. Thank you to Lichwood Grove for inviting me. Thank you, Brudrin. Thank you, Rajavia. And I hope you all have a great time applying Equivocate to your quests and writing some more organic stories for your players. Thank you so much. Bye!